I've ever been alone.
Welcome to I Don't Get It, the Pop Culture Get Off My Lawn cast, featuring the open-minded musings of one early 50s curmudgeon and one late 50s curmudgeon.
Late 40s.
Late 40s, holding the line.
Don't give me an extra 10 years, please.
I'm gonna this boilerplate. I'm gonna leave it as it is and just bluff it until you finally cross over the line. But this is what it says.
Thank you.
Each of those people stares down the prospect of entertainment relevance. I'm your co-host, Bill Scurry, America's East Enterprises, which is a terribly listing ship.
Are you going to start your little lies every episode about what your company does? You're going to start making them topic relevant? Is that a change to the show?
No, I feel like this one was so, I don't know. It's like the topic we're talking about this week is to me, it's bifurcated because we're discussing a film. And yet I think we're going to wind up discussing the
film
content
about a real event.
Yeah, exactly. It's like a
documentary
somehow, right. If you will, there's a form of
if
movie.
If you will, a documentary.
Here's the thing. Somehow in 2013, when we weren't doing this podcast, we omitted the original topic.
That's right.
Yeah,
this would have been perfect, the media to do about it.
We definitely. I'm surprised that we haven't had a lot of. We haven't had a lot of. Even though there's been a lot of maritime disasters, we haven't covered any maritime disasters.
Have we not?
No. I mean,
never covered a maritime disaster.
No. I would say the closest it comes was the forebear of this, the Fire Festival Dock, which is in the series we were talking about.
Right.
But
it was a disaster, and it was by the water.
It was an island. Yes, it was out there. Yeah. Right. I can't think of a Latin derived word for an island. Maritime would work for that, but
maritime. What is the adjective meaning? Island?
Islandic. Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Iceland. No, that's
doesn't
that's
exist.
A country.
Yeah, see. We're gonna. You know what? We get the interns on this. They'll punch it up for us.
Get the interns. We get our AI. Lately, I am being pelted with ads, YouTube ads about hiring an AI assistant. And these people who say their job has gotten 10 times easier because all they do is press a button and all their tasks are done for them. It can't be that easy. And if it is, It's got to be a fucking mess.
Well, I think we've already seen this week, without getting too deeply into it, how good the AI assistant has worked for certain social media sites. So,
yes,
I'm not sure I want to
What's her name? The CEO of X saw it and said, "That's it, I'm done. Last straw."
Linda Yaccarino yeeted out of there after Mecca Hitler took his.
I can't believe she lasted this long, but I'm imagining this was the last straw.
Don't feel bad for her.
Money or something. I do not feel bad.
And she got a lot of it too, by the way.
I'm sure she did.
And you're reaping the benefits, yeah.
Hello, my name is Noah Tarnow. I'm the founder and the senior quiz master of The Big Quiz Thing, the trivia game show spectacular.
The big cruise thing. The big cruise thing.
The big cruise thing in this
offshoot
episode.
Business, yeah.
Yes, I'm going to start. I have pitched, in some form or another, we do live quiz shows. I have pitched doing an event on cruises. I've never been on a cruise.
They do nothing but fucking pub quizzes every night in the bars. That's what they do. I have
heard from at least half a dozen independent people that they've gone on a cruise and there's been trivia and it wasn't as good as your trivia. And I have two hosts actually, but one host I've actually discussed this with who are professional improvisers. And both of them
they did cruises with Second City. Yeah, our common friend John Bander did the same cruise they did. Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
Rory Scholl and Jen Connor. Both, I think, I don't know if they were with Second City, but they definitely did cruises.
Yeah, because
Ross said it was a very unpleasant experience.
I was going to say, Ross was on the same cruise as John Bander, but that's background noise. Anyway. Yeah.
Anyway, so I'm like, look, pitch me, man. Like, you'll do it. You're there anyway. And I kind of want to go because I've never been on a cruise. I think it'll be fun. But even if it's just all right, one of my other hosts, while they're there, they do it. But no one's ever bit. I think part of it is the trivia they do on those. Part of the reason it's bad is they pay basically nothing for it. They just have someone who's already working on the boat.
Yes.
So I would get I could do it for exposure.
In my experience,
but I couldn't really do it in any way that would be worthwhile for me.
In my experience, the thing is, your game is the apotheosis of the type of game that shows up on a cruise ship. Whereas it's done.
Yeah, but why does it have to be that way? Why does it have to be?
Well, you're talking about
why not do a real game?
No. The real game, that's not... No, I'm saying it's your game is the best version of the type of game. The kind of a general knowledge trivia that's figure-outable, all the great hits, and yet yours is more rigorous and you have better written questions. That's
right. So why not have me do it and do a better job?
I agree. I agree.
Yeah. I mean, we pitched it. I remember we pitched it to Disney because one of them was involved with Disney cruises. And a Disney themed thing, but nobody bit.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, it's a mild bummer. It would be fun. It would be an excitement. It would be an adventure. But
you know what? Give me about 45 minutes, Noah, and you might not want to get on a cruise after what I have to tell you.
Yes. Yeah. So today, folks, we're talking about the current hottest. It was at least it debuted at #1 hottest movie on Netflix.
It's outside
still up there.
It's in the top 5, and it's not the #1 thing, but yeah.
And as part of a series that Netflix they started 3 years ago. And then they paused. I think they didn't intend it to be a series when they did Trainwreck, Woodstock 99. 3 years later, they have revived the Trainwreck banner they released like 8 of these things, right?
Yeah, the Fire Festival has been sort of retroactively dubbed into this.
That has? Really?
Yeah, it's in the listing.
I didn't know that. Because that certainly wasn't considered, I mean, that was like more than 3 years ago.
But again, that was under a different, no rubric at all, and now it's part of this rubric.
Okay, and they're doing... Mayor Rob Ford of Toronto. They're doing the Balloon Boy. One I want to watch is they're doing the party where the girl just forgot to put the Facebook invite on private.
Yeah,
it went viral.
That was here. That was in
That was in Amsterdam. Okay.
Yeah.
Anyway, but we're talking about the big hit Trainwreck, the Poop Cruise. Or is it just Trainwreck Poop Cruise?
Sure, Poop Cruise without the definite article, but you get the point.
About a real life event that I vaguely remember hearing about in 2013. Bill, tell us the basics tell us about the movie and, just what we need to know about the actual Poop Cruise itself.
Oh my God. Yeah, it's funny because I feel like, am I just explaining this for people who remember? Was this?
I mean, I thought it was different. My memories of it were very different from what actually happened. I thought some disease broke out. There was like dysentery or something.
Well, that was the Norwalk cruise, and of which there was many of those. Yeah, no, there's.
So I mean, I didn't pay much attention when it happened. I just vaguely remember.
That's the thing. You're sort of smudging this thing with the other thing, and the Poop Cruise.
Smearing it, maybe.
Oh my God, you wouldn't be faulted for thinking that this was somehow part of the dysentery cruise, which is obviously a regular feature. The one scourge of the cruise line is the norovirus, but no, this actually has nothing to do with
one scourge.
So, Trainwreck Poop Cruise is a Netflix documentary. And I wrote documentary in quotes here, Noah, and we'll get into that a little later on. Yeah.
Okay.
It's directed by a man named James Ross, and it recounts the misbegotten events of Feb 10, 2013. That's a long time ago. I forgot.
A simpler time, folks.
Yeah, I must have been like 28 years old. I can't even imagine what things were like back then. On that day, the Carnival Triumph cruise ship en route from Cozumel, Mexico to Galveston, Texas was stricken with an engine fire, which damaged.
No, it was the other way around. Oh no, they had gone to Cozumel and they were on their way back.
Correct. It was the return trip. It was only like a week. It was like a weekend cruise. I think it was like all
4 days or something.
72, something like that. I mean, I think you could sort of like liberally call it a booze cruise. It's sort of one of these. Especially Carnival is known for that. I mean, I don't really have that in my notes so much about Carnival's reputation, but it is part of the game with Carnival. Anyhow. Yes. So this ship was stranded. The massive watercraft, not watercress. That's a lettuce head. Made many good salads. This ship was drifting through the middle of the Gulf of Mexico. The Gulf of Mexico, I say. Go ahead, AI, pick me up. It had no rudiments of electricity whatsoever. It led to the ignominious conditions which caused the voyage to be dubbed, in the moment, by CNN, I'm assuming, the Poop Cruise.
Yes.
So
the toilets were operated by electricity, which,
you know what, my apartment,
I guess shouldn't surprise me. I never really thought of
my apartment on 16th Street that I had with my wife. With toilets could not pump without electricity, and so when the power went down for that 03 blackout? Remember the 03 blackout?
I think it was 03.
We could not use toilets in that building. That was a bummer. But yeah. Anyway, all septic and sewage aspects of the ship were off limits, owing to no pumping mechanism, like you said, Noah. So guests eliminated in showers, plastic bags, overflowing cabin toilets, all leading to a massive surge of waste. And
the air conditioning didn't work, so everyone had to hang out in shanty towns on the deck.
And
to avoid, living in a septic tank.
The temperature inside, without air being pushed around, the temperature was abysmally swampy. So the thing is, in thinking of Leslie Nielsen turning the Poseidon into the waves so it capsized, this boat had a massive surge of sewage waste when the ship listed as it was towed to port. The change of aspect of the ship upon making an umbilicus to two I mean, this is just normal ship stuff. Like it not that it capsized, but it tilted as they were redirecting it, and it actually spilled out these overflowing tanks, causing rivers of feculence all through. Amazing, absolutely amazing. It's in there. You watch the movie, it's in there. Anyway, so this doc was released by the streamer on June 24. Like Noah says, part of the Trainwreck Pop Doc series. Fire Festival, Rob Ford. They also did the Travis Scott Galaxy. What was that?
Yes, Astro World. Rather.
Astro World. Yeah, it's strange because the rest of these are kind of like American Apparel Dove Charney things. Yeah. That's the one that actually had people dying. It's like that's not quite a
bunch of people died in Astro World.
That's what I'm saying. But it's weird to put it like Trainwreck because it seems like a goofy thing about like what a misadventure. It's like fucking people got trampled.
You can think of it, in Woodstock people were raped. But you can think of it as, a lighter episode of a series. It's like Black Mirror, the one that's actually funny as opposed to the one that posits the end of the world.
I guess so. These are mostly...
it's a lighter episode of the series. It's the Christopher episode of The Sopranos.
Christopher, the lighter side. So this debuted at number 2, like Noah said. It remained a top viewed feature for a few weeks now. It has run shithouse, I say. Pun intended, through social media and pop culture, something of a feculent sensation. So, Noah, I'm interested in terms of what did you think of this movie, and then how exactly has it filled you with a want to be on a cruise after this?
I enjoyed this a lot. I thought it was very entertaining. I enjoyed this a lot. I thought it was very entertaining. By the way, this was the production company that did this also did a documentary on Netflix I also liked called Don't Fuck with Cats. Have you seen that?
No, but you were one of the many people who said it was something to that.
Yeah, it was all right. I think I enjoyed this better. It's entertaining. I thought it was well made. They got a lot of great footage. I mean, that's what I thought was odd. This shows you the world we live in or lived in 2013 already. But like no electricity and people are still using the cameras recording stuff on their phones.
Yeah, in 2013 no less, because that's still like iPhone 1 or 2. It's still pretty new at that point, yeah.
I mean, don't you want to save the juice? But, so be it. And then funny detail is, they had no Wi-Fi until they got close to another Carnival cruise, and they sponged the Wi-Fi off of that, and they, that's when they called their family and notified everyone, and that sort of thing blew up on social media and regular media because Carnival was trying to keep a lid on it. People didn't realize how bad it was until that happened. I thought they interviewed some interesting, thoughtful people with some good insight, a good cross section. It wasn't just guests. It was also the staff. It was great to see their perspective. You get to know the characters. You get to care about them. And also, look, I like that this is the lighter side of Trainwreck, as it were. I mean, I feel like Trainwreck implies it's not like a horrible thing where people die. Firefest. No one died in Firefest.
That's what I'm saying. I kind of agree. Yeah. To bracket it with Travis Scott's a little strange, but hey.
Yeah, so I feel like the term Trainwreck shouldn't be used for how many people died in Astroworld or even
5 or 6, but still, yeah.
Yeah. But Trainwreck works for this. Ultimately, everyone survived. It sounds like, I'm sure in the moment it was extremely unpleasant.
But it was a first
and they ran out of food. Like said, it was crazy. And scary. Like, they didn't know what would happen. Like, I think it would be perfectly reasonable at the time to fear that you would die or people would get seriously hurt or seriously sick or a riot would break out or something like that. But in hindsight, everyone survived. And I like to think they can all laugh at it to some extent. I mean, most of them seem to have a sense of humor about it 12 years later. I like the little, at the end, they're like, well, what, where are they now kind of thing, or the result of all that. And they interviewed these three, one woman who, it was her bachelorette party. So her and 2 of her friends. And they said the little joke at the end was like, at her wedding, the bachelorette gifts were in red biohazard bags, the same bags that they passed out on the cruise for people to, take a shit in. I like how, you might argue this, putting documentary in quotes, but I felt this was relatively unvarnished. We as a society still have often a taboo about talking about bodily functions, and they didn't shy against it at all, without it taking an entirely sniggering tone. I mean, we all laugh at the shit. We're all 8 years old, at heart. But it seemed relatively unvarnished to me. They talked about the inconvenience and what everyone had to do and how gross it was and the little fake drawings of of people peeing over the side. I thought was cute. They show a woman sitting on a woman sitting on the railing, her underwear around her ankles, and she's peeing into the water. I thought it was a little melodramatic at points. They interviewed this father and daughter who were there. I think at the time the daughter was only 12, and they're like, we wanted to spend this quality time together. And he's like almost crying, like, I wasn't able to protect my child. Like, come on, man.
That was a little melodramatic.
It was very melodramatic. Even at the time, that would have been melodramatic. And, they also interviewed Brooke Baldwin, who was a CNN anchor at the moment, and talks about how this blew up. And we, at first, were like, do we cover this? But they're like, no, we need to cover this. And how they covered it like crazy. And it just reminds me how degraded journalism is. Yes, it's always look for eyeballs. And, I've seen Citizen Kane. It's always about bullshit. But I don't know. We're in a more dire time now, so I don't like to be reminded that, the top story is the poop cruise. Really? That's the top story? Okay.
Yeah, I remember being tangentially aware of this happening like you. And I was thinking about exactly the stuff that did obscure this. It's the maritime catastrophes, because there were a bunch of norovirus outbreaks. A ship that just like something like 20% of the people got, a diarrhea or dysentery on one cruise ship. And they had to take it out of, commission and hose it down with bleach. And then, unfortunately, the next people who came in there, it still 10% got out of the next cruise too, which just means you're never out of the woods with this shit. Literally, not pun intended. And then, of course,
however, sorry to add this, the boat, the Triumph, is still in service. They spent $115 million to refurbish it.
Yeah,
it's still out there. Yeah.
And the other thing is, don't forget that there was a ignominious cruise ship that was, I forget where it's being held off the coast of Tampa or something like that. At the beginning of COVID, they would not allow it to dock because they didn't want those people to come aboard. And it's like that was the first few ugly steps of what, people had no idea what they were dealing with. And they just thought this is going to be a super spreader. All these people have just been coughing on themselves. Anyway, that was another weird thing that happened. And then, beyond that, there was also the... you remember this? There was an Atlantic bomb cyclone hit a cruise ship in 2017. It was coming from, it was going to New York, Port of New York, which is over by Bayonne, or maybe it was Governor's Island, but it was coming up from the Caribbean. And it got absolutely socked off the coast of Virginia by a bomb cyclone, which is when the fucking barometer drops 38 points or 50 points or something like that. Anyway, it's that ship didn't go down or anything like that. It was extreme. The water was creeping over the side because the waves were so bad. It should not have been out. Anyway, the point is that there has been so many weird misadventures in the cruise industry. It's this kind of was it was just one of those, I guess, if you're paying attention. And again, I've been on 5 cruises myself, and so I kind of have a strange relationship with the recreation of going on a cruise. But beyond that, it's I think that the doc makes a lot of the sensational aspects of this, misadventure huge. Like you said, it plays up the melodrama. Since no one gets hurt, no one got hurt. It is a big soft target. As befits the name more so than something else, and I think we can all agree that even if the whole point of this was to throw, a bag of shit at a massive cruise ship company like Carnival, I don't think you'd feel bad for them. If anything, I think a lot of people are trying to stick it to, if it's a company that you feel is owed liability, and a big part of the narrative was this one Houston-based. Almost he's not really an ambulance chaser, but he's a cruise ship chaser. The guy essentially was a tort law expert who's just
he's a maritime disaster law expert.
Yeah, and I think they settled for sure for some but it's
he said all the cases, all the suits were settled.
Yeah,
so I'm sure a lot of people on the boat got money, but
and who knows if it was every single person, was it?
I don't know.
Yeah, and
plus it says everyone got their money back, everyone got offered a free cruise in the future. Everyone got offered extra travel expenses paid for because, they ended up back in Mobile, Alabama, which is not where they were supposed to be. And everyone got an extra $500. So,
and they got to take one of the bags of shit home with them.
Right, exactly. So I'm really not sure what they're suing. I feel like you sue if you're a staff member, right?
Oh, yeah.
If they sign up for this shit.
If they can, yeah.
I wonder what compensation they got.
My last cutting point, though, the thing that really mattered to me, talk about the movie itself, though, this doc, this is only 55 minutes long. And because of that, it feels like some guy's YouTube review. It to me, the vocabulary and the kind of like production value of it, the breezy tone looks more like a lot of the sort of mid to upper level range content that people put out. Like there's a lot of good stuff from people who have channels that are talking about all sorts of weird subjects, but they have a rigorousness, a sort of like citizen journalism, and they're just doing it themselves. This has that feeling of something that doesn't necessarily need YouTube's money, because Netflix's money you can put on YouTube yourself. Other than the fact that they got these people to sit down, there were some reenactments, but a lot of it was found footage. It was all fair use type stuff from Twitter and CNN. Ultimately, there's not too much other than poo gross, but that's enough to sell a thing to the normies. That's why people bought into this week.
I really had to go. Number 2. And I found this public restroom and I go inside and it was the most nastiest thing I have ever seen in my life. People were covering the poop with the toilet paper and then again pooping on top of it. So it was a layer after layer after layer. It was like a lasagna.
Why was this such a hit?
Tangenting off what I said before, the idea, I think people have short memories for sure, and things are absolutely disastrous at the moment. So this is kind of like a giant novelty shit bomb from your favorite purveyor of ephemeral pop culture distraction, Netflix, right? This is prime for success, and all of the other pop doc topics are in the same lane, and I'm assuming that I want to watch the Project X one, because that does take place in the north of... Matthias was talking about this. I didn't know this even happened here, but I know they kind of made a movie called Project X that was loosely based on that party. That sounds like exactly the kind of, like, again, misadventure or fracas. There's something about that lane, stuff I would almost expect to see on YouTube. But if Netflix makes a good lane out of it, that's great. I could see watching that. They, other than the people dying at the Travis Scott show, in I think that was in Texas or something like that. This is, it seems like a safe sort of soft target. You don't even feel bad about it. Like I said, the biggest victim is the cruise ship. You could say that they're guilty of some sort of liability. If maybe.
I read that they're making more money than ever. Second quarter revenues of $6.3 billion.
And that's right. And that's the irony of it all, is that this is as bad a news drop as there possibly could be. And they essentially did not pay the price for it. I mean, they paid a price for it, but it wasn't anything that was like, not like fucking Tillicum and SeaWorld, which has just sort of like been ending that sector of entertainment. Like, that's enough to kill a company, but this wasn't enough to kill.
Maybe that should have been killed to an extent that the cruise industry shouldn't be killed. Look at the name, Poop Cruise. Like I said, we all have the minds of 8-year-olds. So, people are going to go, what's that about? Right? And poop's funny, haha.
Don't you remember in 1972 when Harry Reasoner did a bit on the news called Poop Cruise?
Okay. We've thoroughly become, to some extent we always were, but we have rocketed into the realm of being a almost completely voyeuristic culture. Look at YouTube. Half of what's on YouTube. We want to watch other people fail. We want to feel better about our lives. Just calling something train wreck. It doesn't literally refer to trains anymore. It refers to, this is why I don't like it for a thing where people die, because it doesn't just imply everything went wrong. It implies everything went wrong due to incompetence, due to stupidity. And we want to feel better about ourselves. We want to feel better about our problems. We want to look at train wrecks because they make us feel superior, or they make our problems feel less dire. And in this one especially, even compared to Rob Ford, where I don't know the details of how bad Rob Ford was. I just know he was crazy. I'm sure a lot more suffered. There was a lot more suffering in the long run. Might not be as obvious. They're also doing one about this group of moms who were like running drugs, and the storming of Area 51. Of course, that leads to conspiracy theories, which is just, a corrosive thing in our society. American Apparel was a cult. Was it a cult? Wasn't it a cult?
I don't know, man. I never bought anything, so I have no idea.
Anyway, this just seems like something you can laugh at, and we want to still be voyeurs and still feel better about ourselves and still feel superior. But ultimately, at the end of the day, we don't feel like we're adding to the problem. And I think it's very easy to watch this and feel that way.
Empathy, attention, empathy.
Waking up suddenly like that, your first instinct is like, I need water. I don't feel good. This is so loud.
What I Would we have liked this as a kid?
Yeah, of course I would have. I mean, I honestly had trouble coming up with an answer to this one because when I was a kid, when I was younger, yeah, there's no reason I would have enjoyed this. Yeah, honestly, I might have felt a little more, I've talked about many times on the show that I had more of a, I was more of a snob back then. So like I might have gone, I would never go on a cruise. These people got what they asked for, but I'm a lot more forgiving now. And yeah, so I think I would have enjoyed this just as much as I enjoy it now.
I think that snob thing. I mean, I'm not sure I ever said as a hard line I'd never gone on a cruise ship. I had not gone on a cruise ship till 2015, and since then I've been on, I want to say 4 or 5 Disney cruises in particular. And in that sector of the business, Disney Cruise Line is both the most expensive, but it is also seen as the sort of Cadillac of cruise lines because it has a better product. They're not booze cruises. And for
do they serve? They must serve alcohol, right?
Oh, sure they do. Yeah, at an extremely high markup, as they all do.
But they're all Disney is all family cruises, right?
Yeah, in a
it's
way
not like they do singles cruises.
Correct. I mean, don't get me. I'm sure people bone down. But
bone down.
Yeah,
nice.
Bone up.
Very nice.
Bone across the watery graves. I have no idea.
Bone across America.
I think that the idea. So before you're at that point, when you're a kid, and again, some people may have had cruise ship going holidays where that was an experience. Our family was definitely not one of those. Neither was yours. I think that puts you in a position to sort of say, can you, like, when you watch this, it's like, yeah, can you fuck up enough? You almost want to see the biggest, fucking river of shit coming at you because it's like, it's your misfortune. You're watching someone else's misfortune for something you can't possibly imagine going on. But now, I'm kind of like comparing it. Everything I'm doing now is tinctured by the fact that I'm thinking as a guy who's been on a couple of cruises, and it's like those hallways look very familiar to me. So I'm kind of like looking at the carpet and thinking I've walked on something very much like that. And so I would not want that to happen. I don't want you to fuck up. I don't want it to blow up even bigger than it is. But as a kid, I think I would have wanted maximum disaster imaginable, simply for the marquee value of watching something like this.
Well, let me ask you something because I'm curious about this when I watch this. Bill, I'm not going to go so far to say you're a germaphobe, but you're definitely more filth conscious than I am.
I mean, yes, okay.
Than the average person is. If you go to Bill's place, you're not allowed to play. You wouldn't let me put my backpack on the floor, as I recall.
No, on the floor, not on my couch. Not on my couch.
Not on the couch, and you will never be seen in open-toed shoes in any public arena, right?
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah.
And you are very fastidious about washing your hands and things like that. So watching something like this doesn't trigger you in some way, like make you uncomfortable?
Well, I mean, it does. But again, it's not even one of those things like there, but for the grace of God go I, because it's like I go there often. I have the grace to go there.
But if you were on the poop cruise, obviously, I think it would...
Yeah,
but I'm saying you have no problem watching this, right?
No, I have no problem watching it. You know what actually got me at the end is when you're watching people launch themselves across the cruise terminal in Mobile, and they're hugging their mom, and it's like, are you serious? It's like,
that upsets you more than shitting into plastic bags.
I almost feel like when you're inside, well, because it's like, did you tell your mom that you're jumping up on her next to the luggage carousel at the cruise terminal, and it's like, Mom, I have been tromping in flip-flops through streams of urine for the last 24 hours.
The mother thought her daughter might be dead. I mean, come on.
Look, I'm just saying, I would
have no heart.
I would have curtsied and bowed in front of my mother and said, Mother, I'm very happy to see you.
Break.
But you know what? Excuse me if I don't touch you and shake your hands right now, because I don't want to give you norovirus off the tip of my fingertips. Oh my
God, you are insane. But you don't get triggered by what? Because there are different kinds of phobias. There are phobias where you can't be near, like, I have a fear of rats. But if I see a rat running like on the subway tracks in New York, I actually am fascinated by it because I know it can't get to me, right? Then there's a friend of mine who she's so afraid of spiders, she can't even see a spider in a movie. She has to look away. So you don't have that filth problem. When you see filth in the movie, If there was a movie where someone was literally, you saw like a bucket of shit being poured on someone's head, you'd be able to handle that?
Well, that's funny because I watched all those Jackass movies, and a big feature of those is the sort of they upend porta potties on everybody. Yeah, it's fucked up, but maybe that's I got a callus on me from watching those John Knoxville movies. It's possible.
Lights, there's no lights, but the emergency lighting was on, so that wasn't like a major issue. Air conditioning, people, if they're inside, can go up to the open decks. Also not too bad. And then somebody realized that the toilets weren't working.
Is the success of Trainwreck: Poop Cruise in any way a sign of the apocalypse?
Well, the quality of this doc, for me, doesn't augur good things for the state of nonfiction storytelling on the streamer. Really? And that's me.
So you think this is poor quality? What do you think is poor quality?
I think it's poor quality. I just think it's like, pap. I think it's pretty soft, easily slurpable food that's at room temperature. I think it doesn't necessarily look. I don't think there's much here to. Maybe there is something here to push, to interrogate. I don't know if this is the space to do it. Frankly, a 55-minute documentary that was probably made for a couple of $10,000 or something like that, maybe $100,000 at tops. And it's like their yield from the amount of effort that went into it from this director, James Ross, is, I'm sure they're beyond happy with what they did. And now that this is what they got it from one documentary, they're going to want it from all their documentaries. This is probably another benchmark. I just sort of think that it doesn't try very hard. And again, I get a grim feeling simply because, like their idea of a good documentary is when they walked out, Making a Murder in 2015. And Making the Murder in 2015 fooled people into thinking that Netflix had a handle on how to make documentary topics, especially for something as serious as that guy, Steven, what's his face, who they were trying to introduce the idea that he was in there because he'd been framed. The cops in Wisconsin had framed this guy.
I only made it through a couple episodes of that.
And that's the thing. It was overlong. It had this sort of this grave feeling to it where, again, you're watching something quote unquote important. And I don't think it earned it, but it started this thing at the streamer where it's like our job is to give you hard hitting stuff like we're gonna open up we're gonna make your eyes open up to something that could be injustice and truth, and we're essentially gonna call ourselves something between like an Alex Gibney doc or an Errol Morris doc, and it's like it is not anywhere as good as either of those two documentarians. Those are. Alex Gibney is a pop documentarian, does a decent job. And Jarecki, who did he did the clown documentary on Long Island,
Capturing the Freedmans?
Capturing the Freedmans. It's like that's
I've always wanted to see that.
Yeah, that's what they're sort of trying to that's what they're trying to approximate is something like Citizen, the Snowden documentary. And it's like it's not easy to get there. It's harder than it looks. And it's like I'm not sure the Poop Cruise thing is the way is what's going to do it. I just don't know if it has the room. You can't really flex in that space. But the thing is, it's like Netflix has been short on depth for a long time. It's long on overstretching project length. And it's like, not only that, it's apt to make celebrities out of guys like Joe Exotic, Tiger King. Like that was a big, I'm not going to hold it against them, but that was a fiasco. And, that was a mess. The whole fucking thing was a mess. He became sort of a pop culture feature. Did Joe Exotic fucking deserve it? I don't know about that. It was a real. That would talk about a fracas. Talk about a train wreck. That was a real train wreck. Anyway, this also doesn't say great things about the cruise industry. But if you could be one of those people who sort of already has a knife out for the sector of entertainment. That's not really a sign of the apocalypse because it's just a running concern of what it's like. Every time you get on a cruise, you just figure it's like, well, maybe someone walk straight out of the John without washing their hands, and they touch the door handle, and then
that happens everywhere, dude.
Exactly.
Well, look, I mentioned the voyeuristic culture. I do think it's pretty bad. Are we a culture of parasites, of critics?
That's another great point, and that's I think the contrapposto from whatever I said.
Is all of culture just mocking people or laughing at people's misfortune or scaring,
farming it, mining it? Yes,
yeah. So, and the fact that they have a whole series about this train wreck, maybe it just shows how low and rapacious our cultural consumption habits are. I do worry about that. I do worry that's where modern media has pushed us. So yeah, that could be a downside of this documentary success. In terms of the event itself, the term I heard, which I've read a lot about, it doesn't apply in this case, but I thought it was, you've heard the term enshittification?
Yes, Cory Doctorow coined that.
Cory Doctorow. Yeah. Now that is a specific thing that I don't think applies here.
It literally was enshittified.
It's literal enshittification, but not the way Doctorow meant it. So it's not really relevant here, but the idea that just things are getting worse, products are getting worse, services are getting worse. I mean, we're certainly going to see that from the government. We are. But then I pulled back on that idea because, look, I've never been on a cruise. Cruises look to me like they are unbelievably complicated. And I've heard some dark things about them. I mean, not just this. I've read about, people disappearing on cruises. Like the theory,
that happens. Yeah.
People falling over the side, or people get shanghaied into slave trafficking. I mean, horrible stories like that. But think of how many people go on how many cruises every year. And the fact that it's like air travel. Yes, the disasters are horrifying, but they are relatively so rare.
Yeah, there's
when you consider the actual numbers involved.
Statistically insignificant almost.
Statistically insignificant. And, same thing, kids getting kidnapped. I mean, that's cold comfort to the parents of the kids who are kidnapped. But the fact is your child is way more safe walking to school than you driving them to school. So, and a cruise seems so complex to me, complicated. I don't feel like the cruise industry is bad. Like even when there's a disaster, it's still like funny in hindsight, no one died. And, I'm a big believer that one of the secrets of success, or one of the secrets of life, if you were to ask me, is that shit happens. It's how you deal with it, right? No matter how, I run events, and this is what I tell my team. No matter how well you prepare, something's going to go wrong. You prepare as well as possible to not necessarily ensure, but to make it more likely that the thing that goes wrong is minor and tiny, or when something goes wrong, you deal with it in a seamless manner, right? I was heartened that at the end of this, they briefly said how everyone got off the ship and they were so relieved to be on dry land. And there was this huge outpouring of thank you to the staff on the ship. And as far as we could tell, the staff made the best of a literally shitty situation. Like, what the hell else were they supposed to do, right? And they were heroic, to an extent. So this could be a good thing then, showing that when disasters happen, people pull together and get shit done. I mean, they say, it was like a riot. People were grabbing food and at each other's throats. But they say that briefly. I mean, it's not like there were an actual extended fight between different camps in the shantytown on the deck.
Suddenly, people were very much like in survival mode. Everyone's out for themselves. They're in line to get food. They're going to get as much food as they can.
Noah, it's time to disembark this podcast. Get your baggage, put it outside your room, put a tag on it, because we are leaving the ship. And we're going to close with our last two segments before we have a going away party on the deck, the Lido deck. We're going to talk about jealousy and the Flonian scale. Is there anything about this that made you feel envious?
Yes. Contrary to what you believe, this made me want to go on a cruise.
Yeah, please elaborate. I would love to hear more about this.
I've never been on a cruise. My family growing up, we were big travelers. My parents took me all over the place. Lots of privilege there.
Beirut, Nicaragua, Africa, great stuff.
I mean, not those kind of places. We weren't. Here's the thing: we were tourist travelers. We weren't adventure travelers. So they took us to Europe when I was 7, and we'd tour museums and churches and history and all that. What we didn't do, two variants of travel we didn't do. Once when I was in college, we went to Costa Rica and we went rafting and camping, and that was fun. But that's the only time I've been camping with my family. And then in terms of we didn't do resort relaxation. We went to Disney a few times until about a year and a half ago. We went to Puerto Vallarta in Mexico, and we went to an all-inclusive resort for a few days. Granted, after that, we went to a small town for a few days and stayed in an Airbnb, and that was great too. And I really liked the all-inclusive experience because I'm a relaxed vacation person. I want to sit by the pool. I want to sit on the beach.
That's your mode at 50 now. Yeah, I see.
Right. I want the all-you-can-eat breakfast buffet. I mean, I've experienced a lot of travel in my life, but I experienced very little of that. And I've never experienced a cruise, and I've always thought that looks like fun. And again, statistically, the poop cruise would not happen to me. And even if it did, Once it's all said and done, what a story I got.
I'm not going to hug you. You need a shower. Then I'll give you a handshake when
Well,
you're back
12 years later in many showers, you wouldn't hug me? Okay.
No, I'm saying you need to like sterilize yourself on the port on the cruise until I get.
Okay. Well, I wouldn't expect you to meet me at the dock. Okay.
Roll down the window as I drive you home. You know what I'm saying?
Anyway, so yeah, I was a little. A, I'm a little jealous, and B, I'm jealous. There's a documentary about me. I don't know what would it be on Netflix. I don't know.
Train wreck. The Noah Tarnow story. I can see it happening.
Someday.
It could happen. It could
after
happen.
I'm dead.
Yeah.
So yeah, I was a little jealous of this experience. I wish something as, no pun intended, sticky happened to me.
Oy, here we go.
And I'd like to go on a cruise.
It's a thing. Look, when it works, when it's rolling, as they statistically do, it's a thing of beauty. It is really. It's kind of close to what you're saying, all inclusive, except it's the hotel is moving you from port to port. It's in some ways.
Yeah, that's kind of cool, right?
If you want to think, it's kind of the best of both worlds. And I've done it in the warm weather stuff, and I also did it through Scandinavia as well. And it's like each of them were different experiences, and it's a ton of fun, really, going to like Iceland and frickin' Norway. It's something to it. Here's the thing: am I jealous for the cruisers? No. Again, I've been in that situation. This is kind of like where I contradict myself from a few minutes earlier. The loosey-goosey handlers at Netflix, they have an unending pop culture salad bar from which to peruse with selective tongs. They grab at sexy and sensational topics for co-option, and they turned it into content of the week. It's like,
yeah, but isn't that their job? Like,
that's what I'm jealous, because it's like they read the brief, as they say. Don't let it ever be said that these barbarians don't understand the fucking assignment. They do, and they make these things. You can't ask for better grist and better churn than this shit. Literally and figuratively. Like, they filled out, it does what it says on the tin. It is exactly the thing you want to do. And again, I say this as a guy who put together 20, 25, 30-minute stuff for YouTube. I know how difficult it is to be a one-man band making profiles of actors or pop culture stuff, like with our Atomic Abe friends. Like, this is a whole different ball game altogether. But this is, like you said, sticky. It's, there's really something to it. And it's like, it nailed it. I may not think it's a, laudable pop culture vessel, not something I'm going to watch a whole lot of, but goddamn, if they didn't get it right, there's just something about it. For sure. So where would you rank it, Noah, on our XYZ axis?
Right. The obvious comparison is the Firefest documentaries, which, remember, it was part of the gimmick there was it was two competing documentaries. Both Netflix and Hulu did them at the same time. And it was weird how they seemed to cover different territory, right? Which
different for eyewitnesses. They went to different first person, yeah.
But it just goes to show how a 55-minute documentary, there might be whole sectors of the story we're not getting.
Yeah.
Good
point.
I read the Wikipedia page about this, and the only big thing that I thought, why didn't they cover this, was the guy who needed dialysis who was shipped off the boat. But it's probably not, they could have melodramaed that, right? They could have said, we were afraid this guy would die, and what would happen? I mean, maybe they tried to talk to him. Maybe they tried to talk to his family.
Maybe it was an early draft. Who knows? Maybe they cut that part out.
Yeah, maybe. So Firefest documentaries divided by what's something really disgusting we've talked about. Gross.
Actually,
that would make your stomach churn. Can you guess?
You're asking me? Other than
we haven't talked about shit, I don't think. That was season 2 of American Vandal, we talked about.
Other than Takeshi 6ix9ine and Meatfluencers, I don't know.
Meatfluencers results. Did you hear that the main Meatfluencer we talked about was arrested?
Yeah, he's a fraud, right? He's not there.
Of course he's a fraud.
He's going through some tough times, yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, you want to guess?
The only other thing I think of is, personally for me, Wiki Feet, just because I have a thing about feet.
That's right.
It's also pretty bad. No, but I can't guess whatever you mean.
Mukbang.
Oh yeah, sure. I guess you could sort of if you mukbang on a cruise ship, this might actually be the result of it at the end. Who knows?
By the way, update on that as well. The main mukbang guy with Nick. Talking to my nephews last week, they're always suggesting topics, and they said you should talk about this guy,
Nick Avocado, him again,
Nico Avocado. And we said, yeah, we talked about mukbang. He lost a ton of weight. He's skinny now.
Oh, but that was I think I want to say 2-3 years ago.
Really?
Janice told me about that. He did a big thing where he vanished for a year, made it seem like he was like falling off and then he did this.
He must.
I think he got Ozempic or something like that.
He must be the saddest person. Anyway, so Firefest divided by mukbang plus 52.3.
thought you were going to say plus Kate Bush running up that hill past topic.
Well, that's not disgusting. That's a beautiful thing.
Well, let's see here. No, I would say, according to my notes, this just said not much. It said something. It didn't say very much. Maybe I'm looking for something. I'm looking for more nutrition, perhaps. But I could say it was completed so perfunctorily that it reminded me of, in addition to not saying much, it had the surface gloss of Josh Gad's pandemic Zoom reunions of TV/moviecasts, which I found sort of patently desultory. Just because they were, getting people together.
I like those.
They were trying to make you feel better while you were stuck being an indoor kid during the first few months of the first year of the pandemic. And twirling out nostalgia for the sake of nostalgia never really gripped me. So, yeah, watching a travelogue about poop isn't quite the same exact thing, but it just made me feel like, in terms of like how you get the job done, it felt as much effort put into the Josh Gad things as this.
Getting the job done. What a metaphor, euphemism to end on, huh?
I know. There's so many number 2 metaphors in this one, metaphors and euphemisms. Well, all right, everybody. If you want to find past episodes, look on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, SoundCloud, Google Play, and YouTube, as mentioned last week. Not that anyway. So far, our last episode has 9 views in the week since it's been out. So no, look, it's fine. That's on YouTube. It's there's no way to find it. It is passively sitting there. That's about what it is earned. It's just all the metadata is doing the lifting, which is not very much. So you can skeet to us at noandbillshow.thesky.social. That's our home. Write to us at noandbilldon'tgetit@gmail.com. Give us a review on all the places you give reviews. That's how it works. billscurry.bsky.social. That's where you'll find me. I'm also on Twitter. I'm also on Insta. I'm also on Mastodon. No, we're not using Mastodon.
Are you still on Mastodon?
No. I think they so far as I understand, anytime I tried to, it was a couple of years ago, I tried logging into Mastodon. They deleted old accounts if you weren't, if you didn't keep up, or maybe they just did whatever federated server I was on, they got rid of it. It doesn't matter. It's a pop culture joke, speaking of ancient topics we did. And youtube.com/AMCs is where you'll see some video stuff, including, again, if you're so inclined to listen to the podcast on YouTube, there's not a video component to it other than a static image. It lives there as well. And Noah can tell you where to find him.
Go to bigquizthing.com. Learn all about my company, The Big Quiz Thing, America's premier providers of corporate and private trivia events. And not Cozumel, but I'm headed to Mexico tomorrow, Bill. Not getting on a cruise ship, getting on an airplane, doing an event in Cabo San Lucas.
For the cartel. Yeah, it's going to be great.
For the cartel, yes. For Gus Fring. And we got a lot more scheduled this summer. Busy summer for us, but there's always room for your event, your corporate event, team building, birthday party, bar mitzvah, wedding, etc. So go to bigquizthing.com, learn all about it, get a customized proposal and consultation. And I personally am on Instagram at the Noah Tarnow.
All right, everybody. So until the next episode, where me and Noah watch the latest installment of the Netflix series about the puke dirigible, we don't get it.
A production of American Caesar Enterprises 2025.